Time for Trading Time Prime Time, right here on AM 1380 WYSH.
Welcome to Between the Lines. What are we up to? May 19th, 2022. And I'm here with Josh Anderson, the chairman of the Anderson County Commission. And we got a lot to talk about. We have May elections coming up. We've got all kinds of issues. Everything's blowing up everywhere in Anderson County. My buddies in Nashville used to tell me, why do you live there? I grew up here. But anyway, so we're going to talk a little bit about different things that are happening. Animal shelters for sure, best we can assess it. Everybody in town's interested in that. Your $200,000 for a Norris Water Sewer Project, good work on that. They needed it, right? I mean,
it's tabled right now. It was at budget, but yeah, we're still trying to figure out.
I don't follow county government much
final
anymore,
numbers on that, but they're going to need some help, and we're trying.
Yeah, and that's what the money's for, in my opinion, is to get out and reach out to those kind of infrastructure projects. Right. Because we'll talk about you for a second, but as everybody understands it, taxes were always tough, and county government always struggled to meet. I would go to Turkey Creek, or I would order on the internet, or I'd buy 500 on Amazon or whatever at Christmas. We get a piece of all of that now. With all the technology and the modernization, our county's getting, and I'll say this roughly, $300,000 or $400,000 a month, $4 or $5 million a year just in internet taxes from stuff that we buy in our county online out. So that changed the whole game.
It did. There's a formula. A portion goes to the cities and a portion goes to the roads and everything. But still, yet it's a lot more than we were getting from sales tax.
Now, is that roads a state thing or is it a local thing?
It's local.
So Gary's getting some money.
He is. Yeah.
Gary's getting some. Hear that, Gary? No more excuses. We got to have some money. We got to have some roads, potholes, things like that. Yeah. Gary does a great job. He always has. Tell us about your background. I mean, people know you pretty well. You've been out there for a little bit in the county world. You grew up where?
I grew up Brooks Gap Road, which has got a.
Better give me a city first.
We're in that no man's land of a Norris Telephone, Clinton address, but we're unincorporated. We're kind of more out and towards the high school area.
What's the area called by locals?
Clinton.
You're in Clinton.
We're in Clinton. But
so if I go out, go past Anderson County High School. I go up to almost the cross section up there, or the Anderson crossing.
75 cut through our farm. It cut it in half. And,
grew up on a farm.
So I look across the road. I look across the interstate. I'm looking at District 1. I'm on the very edge now of District 3. So.
Yeah, so, boy, that rezoning was crazy.
Yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera. We'll talk about rezoning a little bit. Did you participate in that? I mean, the county commission.
Yes.
Rezoned a lot of. You did the local stuff.
We did.
Right?
The operations committee was the de facto committee for the redistricting, and we did. We had a pretty smooth process this time. Our goal was try to clean up the ballots a little bit, where if you're in the city of Oak Ridge, you're going to vote for Oak Ridge commissioners and Oak Ridge council people, just like in Clinton. There's not going to be somebody
out from Marlowe.
Out in Marlowe. So we tried to get those lines.
You did a good job with that, but something's going on in Claxton, and people didn't have the registration cards. People were going the wrong. Of course, we now have Blue Tail Lane out there, part of Claxton.
Yeah.
But I think there was probably, and I can say this now because it's this past protest time, I think, but there had to be more than 100 people that didn't get to vote because they got confused.
I heard several stories of somebody would live on Wolf Valley. They'd go to Fairview to vote.
That's what
you can't vote here. You got to go to Claxton. They'd go to Claxton. Well, you actually need to go to Porch Manor.
Yeah.
And when an election gets decided by 14 votes, that starts to sting a little when you think of somebody that gave up and decided not to vote that day or something.
Yeah, or gave up after that's right. Because you only got to change 7 minds to catch up 14
Right,
votes. You just,
right.
you go like, yeah.
Right.
People don't realize that all the time,
Yeah.
but it's 7 miles. Both of those gentlemen did a good job, and they worked hard. Both Roger and Matt worked hard, so that was a good election. What is the biggest challenge facing commission right now? You got an influx of money. You got a lot of other stuff going on. Of course, people got to understand that just because you got $11 million in the bank doesn't mean you get to spend the $11 million, because if you spend it on something that we call reoccurring expenses, then we're going to have to pay for it next year and the next year and the next year. So you try to do infrastructure, capital gains.
Well, you do, and when you're spending the federal dollars, this ARP money that we're getting, there's definitely strings attached. There's criteria. You've got to spend it on a
ARP would be
American Recovery, American Rescue.
Stimulus money?
Stimulus money,
Okay.
yeah. What we're hoping to do, and we're probably still going to have some more workshops. We really want public input on that. What I've heard from people from day one is we need broadband, we need more rural
I hear that too.
internet, and we've got some still in 2022. There's still 1 or 2% of the county that needs water.
Yeah, and when Rex and I and all of us came in with Rex, it was it was more like 10% at that time. But Rex did a good job of prioritizing water and doing some stuff. I hear good things about your work. I mean, I'm talking about you personally, not commission, that you try to get people involved. And you come, Norris is a great community anyway, because those people are well educated on the issues, and they participate. And it looks like a little New England town, so
Right,
of Anderson
right.
County. So I give Norris a lot of credit for being involved and doing things. And it seems like Norris, Andersonville, Fairview, I mean, you could make the argument that they basically willed an election this time, that their political will for Victoria and other things and people in their area was very powerful.
They did about a fourth of the turnout overall in the
Was in
election.
District 3.
District 3.
26%, you're right. And the whole city of Oak Ridge was less.
Right. So
amazing.
that's changing the
9
strategy.
precincts versus 4 precincts.
Yeah.
So if Andersonville's growing, you're getting more stuff out there and you're doing more. I think that it's gotten interesting because obviously I'm in the business, so I'm part of the problem. I told a candidate today in another area, I said, you're more what we need. We need people like you, not people like me, because there's too much is decided by cable television, ads, direct mail, but the one place that doesn't really impact as much, because I do congressional and state races, but is local races. You get to talk to people and you get to feel what's good and be inclusive, and you've done a lot of that. I mean, I work in the engineering nuclear field full time, and I talk to a lot of people that do different kinds of work, and people feel like the communication is better now. The ones that are astute, we're talking about the 20%, right, that pay attention, that you've been able to bring some people together and people are getting along better, and you're not fighting over $90,
Right.
We used to joke all the time that we would fight in the general fund over $1,200 into the night. Then schools would come in and say, we need $20 million for this, and just pass, approved.
Spend that
It was crazy.
30 seconds or something.
But I really like the school superintendent.
Yes.
I really like him. I think he's he just kind of got a grip on the regular folks, and he's got a good thing. And I just think he's done a good job. So I think all around, I think Mayor Frank's done a good job the last 4 years. So I feel pretty good about county government. I really do.
I think things really. I got elected in 2018. It seemed like the first year or two was kind of a breeze.
That was your first time?
That was my first time.
Seems like you've been there longer than that.
I've tried before, but yeah, that was my first time.
I didn't know
there.
that.
So I just kind of I moved up pretty fast. I was pretty fortunate to get elected vice chairman and then chairman.
Oh yeah, that's what somebody said to me. How'd you move up so fast today? And I said, obviously that's a good thing.
I got elected chairman in the middle of the pandemic, of course. So that everybody was kind of learning. That was our first pandemic, and we, the county, people don't realize this, Anderson County kind of led the way on the voting system that we used, the tablets. Brian Young with IT, we had that set up. We had some of the best, most flawless virtual meetings in the state. A lot of rural counties were really struggling with trying to meet and have quorums and stuff like that. We kept the government moving. Our turnout, obviously we didn't have the courtroom open all the time, so our attendance kind of tapered off a little bit, but we kind of kept the ball moving forward. But people are back now.
I do polling all over Tennessee and some other areas, other states, but I tell you, Roe versus Wade is obviously a very controversial issue and warranted both sides to be listened to. And you got some other things in here in these issues. I've seen some issues over the year. I have never seen the volatility and the anger and the just intense debate, and that's complimentary. It was worse than that. Over masking. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, in Knoxville, if they'd have gone another 3 months masking those kids, people would have been over the top in the end. It's really interesting to me. I mean, at first sight, you wouldn't think it's a big deal. But as I've talked to teachers more and more and other people, I think it was a failure. But if you're 88 years old, it wasn't a failure. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And people got to understand there's multiple sides to this. And my family's been impacted by COVID, and others have. And I still don't think putting masks on kids was the answer. But I mean, 5-year-olds are just pulling at it anyway. I've talked to grades, and now they're starting to. After 2 years, they're starting to draw faces and characters with masks. They didn't know what faces looked.
Right.
4 and 5 years old. So it was a controversial debate. But I think y'all did handle it well, and I think. I think we're all reeling from it. I think the economy's reeling from it. I don't have much good to say about it, but I think y'all did do a good job of that.
Yeah.
So let's go. I think that your district has the 3 probably most active, and I assess these things, the best commissioners running for office of any area. When I try to line 3 people up, I think Shelley, you, and Lindsay. You know, you can't lose. You know, I mean, you can't lose. But I think those 3 people have stayed active. I look in other areas. I don't hear much from Clinton people. I like them, but I don't hear much from them. But those 3 are just very social media oriented. So I give you guys up there a lot of credit for being active. I fail to see any way you don't go back in, but you don't want to hear that.
You got to run like you're from, you're behind.
Well, and you don't know what the partisan stuff's going to do.
Yeah,
you never
this is
know.
the first. Yeah, we're looking at a different election.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be the first to say, I have studied the Hatch Act stuff, and I have looked at it for other issues and for federal officials that I work with. An independent candidate, I just don't see any conflict. I just don't see it. I think you're fine. I don't know who wants to be make an issue and cry, but I think you're smart to run as an independent. I think that's what's required. And I just think, and what we're talking about is Josh works for the post office. But he's running for a local office. But when they made the office as partisan, the question came into effect, does that affect his status on the HB being a part? And most people say, no, it doesn't, because he didn't run as a Republican or Democrat. He doesn't participate in those things, just to catch you up. You have the power as a commission chairman to set the agenda, to call the meetings. Is that correct?
That is.
What else is unique to you guys?
Well, we sign right along with the mayor on the resolutions, the proclamations, deeds, contracts. When we, I had to sign the sale of 205 Main, kind of. So we're putting our name on stuff that sometimes started way before we came along.
Yeah.
The transfers and things for the new convenience center there at Wolf Valley. So
and when DOE transfers property that's inside Anderson County, most of it's Roan and stuff, you have to weigh in on some of that
yeah,
stuff.
we do a lot of that gets taken care of through Commissioner Denenberg with the Intergovernmental Committee.
Yes.
Some of that will go through her.
Yeah, I like Catherine. Catherine's been around a long time. She's been very active and very, very vocal. I'm not much for partisan on local politics. I just kind of like.
Yeah.
I know that'll get me in trouble, but I mean but I think people are better known.
Yeah.
And state rep races, congressional races, you need to know where they stand. They're voting on advocacy positions.
Yeah. And if anybody wants to check my record, you can look up. I would have qualified to run as a
straight Republican.
But,
yeah.
But I'm
well, there hadn't been much else to vote for in recent years. So,
Right.
we're getting kind of there in the situation. Primaries are where they get you and they try to defend you. Let's take a short break, 2 minutes, and we'll come right back.
Unlike other health concerns, mental illness is not always easy to see.
DEPR.
Mental illness doesn't show up on a scale.
Bipolar?
Sorting out a mental health concern takes professional diagnosis and treatment.
Anxiety. I thought so.
If you or a loved one has a mental health concern, don't go it alone. For 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, call 1-800-662-HELP. Learn more at samhsa.gov/support.
What if one day you went to your secret hiding place and instead of what you came for, you found this? What would you do? The truth is, all drug use comes with risk. Before drugs take their toll on you and your family, know that there is help. You can quit. If you or someone you love is struggling with drug use, call 1-800-662-HELP for 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, or go to samhsa.gov/knowtherisks.
Hello, I'm District Attorney General Dave Clark. My fellow DAs and I successfully fought for new elder abuse laws and procedures that have police departments and agencies using improved tools to protect our seniors. Victims of elder abuse are often unable to recognize or report abuse themselves. They need your voice. If you suspect abuse, contact local law enforcement or Adult Protective Services. Let's work together to protect our seniors.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. Beware of telephone scammers pretending to be government employees. Real Social Security employees will never threaten you. Callers threatening you with arrest or other legal action and demanding money are not from us. If you receive a call like this, hang up. Do not provide them with any form of payment or information. Report the call at oig.ssa.gov.
State website.
All right, we're sitting here talking about a new subject. We'll get to signs in a while, but right now we're going to talk about the animal shelter. I have a lot of animals. My wife has. I mean, I've never seen like it. We have a cat that sits in one chair. We got a little schnauzer that does something else, and we got another dog. And every 2 or 3 years, you know, she tells me, "Hey, there's a dog on the side of the road on the phone." I say, "Oh no." So, but she's kind to him. What happened? What's going on?
We're still trying to figure all that out, actually. This has been kind of there was every maybe 6 or 8 months, there's kind of a controversy, it seems like, with the animal shelter, and we get a large group, and it's kind of commonplace. So I think there's an HR investigation right now where they're trying to kind of work through some things, so we don't have that settled yet. They've done some interviews. I think, as far as I know, the state comptroller is looking into the issue of the officer not being licensed to do the euthanizations. I think they're.
I thought it was a non-kill shelter.
Well, I think it has had that designation at different times.
Okay.
But then there's I'm out of it.
And
that seems to vary from county to county on what is a no-kill shelter. Like
That's correct. That's correct.
You know, and that sort of thing. So I think. I think the big thing is if he's not, and I believe he's gone through the process to get relicensed. So maybe it's not shown up on the state website or something yet. So we got to take care of that issue. There's a little the commission voted to form a new committee. I think there had been a task force related to the animal shelter before that kind of disbanded or came apart or something. So there's probably going to be some discussion on who's kind of going to spearhead that. Is it going to be a mayor-led thing or commission-led thing? But the big thing I'm taking from it, and Dr. Newby, who owns a couple of animal hospitals here in Anderson County, Clinton and Norris, I think he said it best. He said, Brian needs the rescue groups need Brian. Everybody's just got to come to the table and work together and stop some of the
So
arguing.
It sounds like a communication problem.
I think there's a lot of communication issues. And frankly, the budget for that shelter, it's so small, we can't run it without volunteers.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Where is the shelter, first of all?
It's near Blockhouse Valley on that.
Okay,
property.
Back down on
Yeah.
that, so Claxton coming down.
that
Okay,
kind of that
out by
area.
Bull Run, come through there. Okay, so and it houses all kinds of animals.
Just dogs and cats.
Okay.
And I think
gets most of them, doesn't it?
Yeah, we've got 12 dog runs, I think, which is not huge. But then, of course, Oak Ridge does their own intake. Norris has a shelter.
But they process
too.
to you, don't they?
No, they've got their own. But now they won't take anything that's not from within that area.
Driver's license.
So right now we're kind of in a situation where if we've shut out, and I don't know, you know, there's a lot of he said she said with this stuff. We really just need to bring the volunteers and the animal rescue groups and everybody back in. I know there's not as many cat groups as there are dog
So
groups.
how many employees do we pay, county tax dollars, to work at the shelter?
We've got our animal control officer who's been on some extended leave. I think he's back now. I believe there's 2 other employees. I'm not actually sure, but it's a very small. I've looked at the numbers in that budget, but it's not a big department.
So, but the facilities and everything, is it a $250,000 budget item?
It's close, something like
somewhere
that,
in that range,
in that
yeah.
neighborhood, yeah. And I know there's been some talk about, do we just need a bigger shelter? The input I'm getting from the public is that'd be nice someday, but not yet. We just need to kind of get some management stuff.
How many, I don't honestly, cages, houses, whatever they call those. When you go into Elk Ridge Shelter, there's maybe 10 or 12 large ones for 15 for dogs, and then there's cats are up front, and there's a lot of cat ones.
Yeah.
Maybe more than 15, maybe 25 for dogs.
Yeah, I think it's 12 runs for the dogs. I'm not sure how many.
What's a run?
The cat, just the little kennel thing that they go in.
Okay.
So yeah, and I know like there'd been some issues. I think the mayor mentioned at Monday night's meeting that there was an active criminal case going on where the county had taken possession of 6 Weimaraners, or they were housed there, but they hadn't really been relinquished. So we were kind of struggling. I forget what she said. It was over a year that we had those in there. So that obviously.
Do you think, I go to the food shelter every week in Oak Ridge, and I donate some food, or I go over here. Everything seems to be bigger. Like, we have 88 people in line this week, and last week, we used to average 40 or 50. More people in line for food. When gas is $4.50, that happens. But are we seeing more animal neglect or animal?
I think in a county like this, where we're still kind of got rural and frontier and stuff like that areas, and then rapid development, and then you've got, if there's a economic slump or something, people turn out dogs. But I think what I kind of notice is just we've got to do a better job maybe on some spay and neuter drives or some education on animal care. It seems like ownership of pets out in certain areas is almost a vague concept. They'll just, leash laws really aren't enforced out kind of where I live.
And they get away.
And they get away and kind of do.
Well, cats kind of roam on their own anyway.
Yeah.
I've got cats that live in the neighborhood.
And then you've got to decide, is it a feral cat or is it just a cat that's hanging out or something, so, and then what do you do?
Well, that's a job, that's a pet owner's responsibility to put something on it.
Yeah.
Mine doesn't have it, but if mine's mostly indoor. If it gets out, and we got 7 in the neighborhood owned by different people, and they'll come and they run like kids in the playground. They run together, and but if they don't have a tag on them, then I'm not sure that creates much responsibility.
Yeah. So I think kind of educating people on the responsibility of pet ownership is going to be a big part of this to kind of help the whole stress on it. But then in the immediate short term, we've got to get work with the shelter or the rescues and the groups.
Yeah. Sounds like y'all are trying to
I think
ahead.
The task force we've moved to. We're going to put some cameras in the facility just to kind of protect everybody, so there's not as much, accusations, that sort of thing.
Boy, it lit up for a week, didn't it?
It did. Online, it was.
It never. I tell people, and I do media because it's never worse than the first day. It always goes down after that usually.
Right.
But because people get facts, and it starts, you went off 12%, 8%, like that, et cetera, et cetera.
And that's one of the things that, the Fine Line Commission has to walk is when there's. We're obviously kind of the protectors of the county, so when we've got county employees that are being accused of this thing or the other, and we're trying to do an HR investigation, you've got pretty sensitive personnel issues that you don't really want to broadcast in a public meeting. So we kind of got to let the HR director and all that kind of run its course. And of course, when you're passionate about something like animals, you don't really want the wheels of government to turn slow, but we've got to let it take its course and do the investigations and do it right. So.
Also, and jump into a different subject real quick. And I give the disclaimer, my wife is running for county commission in the center of Oak Ridge, Glenwood, Pine Valley. But it seems like, and I've worked in Knoxville and Bradley County and all over the state with different people, there is a tremendous rise in the number of women involved. I can tell you that, and that's a good thing. I tell you that in the national, Republicans and other, they're not even recruiting anyone besides women and other types to run for office because they're just so trusted and popular now. And I think we can end up with 4 or 5 women on the commission.
I
That's a
think
good
so.
thing.
There's going to be at least one from District 3.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe 2. I don't know. But,
That's right.
And then another thing I've noticed here is the average age has kind of gone down a little bit. Like there's a lot. I was the youngest person that ran last time. I'm the youngest person on commission, but there's some people that are younger than me, people about my age.
How old are you?
Right, I'm 38 now.
That's about what I thought. Oh, 30. Well, it's interesting. You know, after the elections, we talk about Victoria Bowen going on. She'll be the oldest judge in Anderson County.
Wow.
53. All the other judges are 40-something.
Wow.
That's a major shift. Average age of a judge 40. I don't think there's any county with that low average. But that's good. That's good. That's
Yeah.
what we need.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm an old guy. I'm ready to go. I mean, it's time for other people to do the work and take over, and just exciting. I mean, you got some 50. The mayor, Rex. There's a few like Jeff Cole. Jeff looks 65, but he's only 54, 55. And that whole crew, Shelton, they're all in their mid to late 50s. They're starting to move up too, and but they're in prime time. I mean, for elected officials, you know, you get in your mid to late 60s, it's time to look at giving some other people a chance. And I think we're seeing more of that. But women are coming in, and anytime you get, and this is my experience from being in politics anytime you get a good percentage of women, you have more open, more analytical discussion. You know, they call it the good old boy system. That's not really fair to the good old boys, but it's a way that the boys have done business for a long time. Well, we'll talk to old Fred later. We'll do this. Women are going to bring those issues out in front. I think that's very healthy for local government.
And it's
great.
a different perspective. I mean, there's. I feel like I usually know what's going on in my district, but when I talk to the people running, running with me, running against me, running in District 3, they'll say stuff that I hadn't heard or considered before. So it's.
But you're a good listener. You're a good listener. I think in politics it has to help to deliver the mail everywhere. I swear. I said that about. I told Roger
most
Miller
of my
that.
route's Knox County though. So
Is it really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. Yeah, it's good door-to-door work. You're prepared for that, aren't you?
Right.
That's great. And people, you know, I can remember every year as a kid we'd have my mother would always have a thing of cookies or a thing, everything for the mailman. The mailman,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I'm a diabetic, so I kind of have to take the insulin, but I do.
Are
like
you
the
a one? Are you
brownies. Type
diabetic?
1? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So you've been there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take another break. Let's get this done, and we're going to come back and talk about some other stuff.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. A My Social Security account allows you to access your earnings history and benefits information, request a replacement Social Security card, get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
This is my husband, Alex Hussey. Alex is about 2 weeks away from coming home.
I was playing man on foot patrol, and I stopped on the bomb. Lost my legs and my left hand in an explosion.
And he suffered a severe traumatic brain injury.
As America's veterans face challenges, DAV is there.
There are so many mountains to climb, and we do it together.
With the right support, more veterans can reach victories, great and small.
Come on, Alex, take on this mountain. That's what this is all about.
DAV provides a lifetime of support to veterans of every generation, helping more than 1 million veterans each year.
Alex has conquered this mountain. That's something he won't forget.
With the right support, there are no limits.
Look at that smile! You did it!
But there's more to be done and more victories to be won.
This has meant so much.
Thank you, DAV.
Alex Hussey, thank you for your service. Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
Always ready, always there. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
Hello, I'm District Attorney General Dave Clark. My fellow DAs and I successfully fought for new elder abuse laws and procedures that have police departments and agencies using improved tools to protect our seniors. Victims of elder abuse are often unable to recognize or report abuse themselves. They need your voice. If you suspect abuse, contact local law enforcement or Adult Protective Services. Let's work together to protect our seniors.
Welcome back. We're talking off the air. We're talking about the budget and how it's growing and what's going on. So we'll just pick it up from there. So 130 million. How much is schools and how much is general fund?
The schools is about 65% of the budget.
That's right. It always was about 2/3. So that puts us at about 45 million for general fund. I think in 10 or 9 it wasn't near that. It was 25, 28 million.
Yeah.
But and tell them what general fund means is it's not controlled by the school board and the academic community, et cetera, et cetera. That's all because teacher salaries are way up there. And in general fund, you're dealing with roads, buildings, ambulance department. I call it that. I'm on EMS, courthouse workers. Fee. Now, some of these offices are fee-driven and stuff like that. What is the biggest challenge? We're going to finish up here in a minute with a long segment on the jail, but let's just go right to it. I hear that there's been more overdoses in the jail this year, deaths in the jail. Not just overdoses, but deaths from inmates than there has been in the cumulative 8 or 10 years or 3 years or 4 years. Is it really gotten really bad?
Yeah, and I don't know the
exact number.
I don't know the figures inside the jail, but that reflects what's going on in the county in the last. It's in 3 or 4 years, and the mayor's presented some of these numbers before, but it's just shot up.
And see, the problem with the COVID is that when people who have addictions get pinned in, they can't know way to let
It's
them
not a it was pretty tough on
neurosis can
people
be really
who are already
bad.
struggling. So,
but my argument against that, I'm not against that, but in the jail is you got them in a contained environment. You ought to be able to get them help. In other words, if I've got 340 people down there, I have a hard time getting to the 70,000 or 80,000 people out here to help them. But if I've got them there and I've got a nurse and a medical staff, are they ODing when they come in? Or are there drugs in the jail? How does that work?
I think that one of the big issues seems to be that they're in such poor physical condition anyway because they've been kind of living this life that once they get into that stressful situation, basically I've heard officers describe it as, their heart explodes pretty much when they're in under that kind of that conflict. Yeah. And then I had an issue. Someone called. They had I don't know that it was an illegal. I don't know exactly what the issue was that got them arrested, but they were concerned because their relative was in jail with some mental health issues and was on prescribed medication. They weren't sure if she had access to it, so I made a couple calls to try to kind of figure out. And they said, yeah, we've got it. And I said, well, it was kind of an uncommon, whatever the substance was. And they said, Josh, we don't arrest healthy people anymore.
That's right.
They're all on either something illegal or legal that's prescribed. And that really kind of set me back and it ties in not just with the drugs, but with the state closing the mental health facilities, the hospitals and stuff. That's unfairly shifted a lot of that burden to the county with the sheriff's department and the jails, and we're having to deal with people that really just they need hospitalization more so than they need to be in jail.
And that's my whole point on all the money that wants to be spent on jailing and all that. Just seems like a redundancy of stuff that's not working already. Now, I have a little bit of experience in the past being able to, if you take the 300 people that are in jail, 30 of them are dangerous, maybe 60. A lot of people are just drug addicts, repeat offenders. Very few of them are, there's some held felonies. I'm talking about the misdemeanors that have been sentenced and are faced. But people being held for another prison or another court or a different different crew. But I think we've got to find some way to, and judges can help with this. But we've got to find some way to get to where we don't have to house all these people.
Well, and it's when I first came on, one of the big issues was jail's overcrowded. We've got to open this other unopened pod.
I was against
we don't
that
have
10
it
years
staffed.
ago. Yeah.
We've got to, we need the room. We're going to get sanctioned. We're going to get shut down by the state. We've got to do this. As soon as we got the funding appropriated to do that, COVID hits, and then they let people out of the jail. So it's this, they weren't. Why didn't we just do that before?
They argued for years that we're going to hit 600 by 2015. We're going to do this. No, we're not. I mean, you can look at the trends. It's not happening. And anytime you want to, a judge can come in, and people are in there for VOP on failure to do this or failure to do that. Or, I mean, there's probably 30 or 40 people in the 400 people 50, that are there on just, they can't follow the rules.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's not they've done even new crime. They've been violated. They're coming in. They can't follow rules. And I always say, if they could follow rules, they wouldn't be here to begin with. I mean, you know, they've got, like you said, neurotic concentration problems. So we've got to come up with a better economic system.
And you get into, you know, situations where if somebody's in trouble for back child support or whatever, well, if you put them in jail and they lose their job, or if you take away their license, so they can't get to the job.
If you don't, you're not going to get their attention. You'd be surprised how many people come up with money when they're back child support.
That's true too, but there's got to be some kind of, it seems like, balance to work out. You know, if you got to help them kind of get out of this cycle where you can, you know, if you can help some way with getting that address, that permanent address, in a way to kind of get the job where they can just get on their feet a little bit, so they're not having to kind of turn to that.
You know,
that lifestyle.
But dysfunction in the 2020s, it's off the chart more than it was 30 years ago. You know, when you had to go out, I mean, I know this is overplayed and over-dramatized, but when you had to get up at 7 o'clock and go work all day, farming or whatever you did, and you come in, you got energy for all that. You know, you worked hard. We worked in the factories and we did stuff. I mean, always was alcohol abuse. There always was. But, you know, it just seems like now there's more, and COVID accelerated the problem. Just got a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
And when your mind's not occupied and you're not doing stuff, it's hard because you kind of drift off into things you shouldn't be doing. Biggest problem we ever saw was people go in, we always said if you don't get 60 days or more, you're not going to change your habits. In other words, 60 to 90, 30 days they're out. That's a common VOP sentence. So they get in their 90 and they get out, but where are they going to go? Right back to the same collateral social structure they went to, and they're going to start right back up again. So there's no easy answer. There's no cheap answer for sure. So I appreciate all the work those people do in law enforcement, but we got to figure out a different way to, you know, I thought they would take that pod or something, just create a barracks down there, build a building, get a barracks for weekenders, just like an Army barracks, you know, where you come in one male, obviously, and one female, build them in there and get them in there, get them out, let them do some work over the weekend, do whatever they got to do. Because basically you're just going to your cell and staying there the whole time. And we always found that county prisoners wanted to go to state prison because there was more to do.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm not an expert at it, but I think it's a big economic challenge for you guys.
Yeah,
maybe the biggest one. Maybe the biggest one.
The sheriff in the jails it's the second largest budget outside of the schools. It's $12 or $13 million.
But it's one you have direct control over.
And it is.
Line item control.
We've got some control over that. But then we have, you know, the state kind of set the thermostat for us at the jail pretty much. You know, so if that goes out, we've got to.
So jail was about 4, 5, 6 million 10 years ago. How much is the jail budget now?
Yeah, it was. I remember there was a tax increase involved to kind of get that.
But it's up to 10 million running the jail.
The
jail budget.
The separate budget. I don't think it's that.
See, the sheriff has one budget.
Yeah, he's got
a
separate
budget.
Yeah, I know it together it's 12 or 13, but I'm
there
not
you
sure.
go.
It's probably about 8 million, I think.
Yeah, it was 8 or 9 million. That's right. Yeah. So 8 million. So it's basically gone up 50%, which makes sense given everything else.
And so much of that's, you know, just having to have the staff to.
Are people paid better down there?
The salaries they're getting. We can't compete with private sector, you know, the guards at the plants here in Oak Ridge or something. And
well, that's what the police force has the same problem.
Right. We can't compete with that, and it's exacerbated when times are good, but we have to kind of really focus on being benefit rich, having good insurance for people and stuff like that.
Jumping to the COVID situation, did that shorten up everything? Was there less people to do the work, even in county government?
There were some people who were able to work from home. It seemed like.
I'm thinking of jailers, man.
In the jailers, well,
they can't work from home.
They can't work from home, but there was quite a bit of, and that was cooperation with judges and everything. There were a lot of people who were released during COVID to lower the inmate population, and then that kind of reduced the pressure if somebody was quarantined for 2 weeks or something that was missed.
I'm jumping around because I got a lot of questions, but let's talk about elections of commissioners. There are 8 commission districts, 2 from each district. Who determined that 2 out of 3 or 2 out of 4 that you would? Who determined 2? That was determined by your local commission. Set that up a long time ago.
Yes, yeah, there's.
So it could be 8 and 1 in each district?
The state, yeah, and we had 9 commissioners, I think, years ago, and moved to 18, but I think Campbell County's got 5 districts with 3 commissioners per district. It varies. You can have, in Tennessee, you can have from 9 to 25 commissioners in a county, and I don't want to think about what 25 commissioners.
Yeah. Knox County has a lower number.
They do,
and they get 1 person from each district and 2 at large.
Yeah,
maybe 3 at large.
Yeah.
I was involved in a couple of large elections over there, but it's just more efficient. It's more efficient. You can get more done. We always used to say in administration, the more commissioners you get, the better, because they'll never get to any resolution. You know what I'm saying? They're going to argue, and they're going to be pockets of it. You get 9 guys in a room, or women or men in the room. It only takes 5 to make a plan.
Yeah, I think kind of out in my area, it's more. I mean, we've got the entire city of Norris, but people kind of rely on their commissioners. I think Rocky Top's probably the same way, where you could kind of almost make the case that we need to and they need to or something because of just the call volumes. But Clinton and Oak Ridge, when they've got the city council that they can work with too, that and of course then there's going to be some argument debate over do you want to have 2 commissioners in one district and 1 in this district, and
my problem isn't the number.
Right.
Well, I guess it is. My problem is it's an illegal voting system. I mean, this goes back to me and Ernie hanging out together in the old days, Ernie Phillips. But you can be. Let's take your race. Let's take your race with 2 people, other people. Mm-hmm. You could go out and spend $80,000 on a commission race. Hand everybody a dozen rows. Whatever you want to do. It's not going to matter. They're going to pick up another person behind you. Mm-hmm. You're dragging somebody with you. Mm-hmm. I just think that voting for 1 or 2 or 3. It sounds good in a volunteer meeting or a Rotary meeting, but I don't get it. I think it's confusing to people.
Well, and I think there's some counties. I think Bradley County is one of them where they have basically District 3, Seat A, Seat B.
That's true.
So I could run unopposed in Seat A, and there'll be 10 people running in Seat B. So you're not necessarily splitting the vote that way. So everybody kind of has.
Yeah, it's interesting down there. And I do work down there. It's interesting.
And I could almost get behind having staggered terms for the commission. So we don't.
So you take District 3, you put 1 person in this 2 years later, you put another person.
So you're not potentially.
I really like that.
If you reelect, you could have an upset election and you have 16 brand new commissioners, and then that's a learning curve. Because we're already.
Oh, you're probably looking. We got retirements.
We've got 6
going out.
Yeah, and if we have any turnover, we might have half of a brand new commission. But we're losing a lot of the. Chuck Fritz has been there 20 years. Jerry Creasy, he's kind of the dean of the county commission out in your district. He's been there since 1990. So that's a lot of.
He's there 80. Wasn't it 81?
I think McCamey had been there in the 80s, and then he was off for a period and got back in or something like that. So
Jerry was there. I wanted to say Jerry had been there 40 years, but I might be wrong. Maybe it's 32.
Maybe, but yeah. So there's a lot of knowledge that we're going to and experience that we're going to lose. Some of these legacy issues that we still deal with, where we can kind of look at them to ask what was going on.
What happened then?
Yeah, and. So we're going to have
some new faces. There's a lot of lazy people and they're playing campaigns and government stuff. But commission races are very competitive. They get out and work. It's their neighborhood. It's the one race where you can go knock on all the doors if you want to take the time.
Yeah, and you have to. And District 3, just if you look at those primary races, it's a different.
Norris, you can do.
Totally different number. You can.
I didn't know until the last week of April, second week of April, that you could knock on doors in Norris. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've been here 100 years, right? But I always thought, the post office, they get their mail, everything's organized and systemic. So people would come out and meet people at the post office. So I know you can't do certain things, but you can go out and knock on doors and meet people. I thought that was pretty good. I saw a bunch of people did that this time. Because I always thought it was to contain, kind of a community like it is, that they didn't allow people to solicit.
Like no soliciting or something.
But that's a sales thing, not a political thing, I guess, et cetera, et cetera. Let's talk about signs for a minute. That seems to be the big subject this week. There seems to be some signs missing. I'll say this. I probably bought 100,000 signs in my day and seen tens of thousands go up. Always there are signs missing. I mean, it's just part of it. People take signs, kids vandalize signs. Problem is this year we're seeing a little bit more of what is allegedly one campaign being involved in another campaign signs, and there's no place for that.
Yeah, and it's Fortunately, it's not my district. I mean, we've had a little bit of we've had some sign loss, but I don't.
I saw
don't
where
know that
Lindsay
it's
had posted her
yeah,
sign had been destroyed.
and it had been kind of the same place a couple times. It seems like it had been targeted. Other than people take them down to mow and forget to put them back up or whatever.
That's usually what happens.
I try to keep mine on private property and not in the intersections, just to kind of get that endorsement from the person. But I've not noticed any that are of mine that are missing. But it seems like it might be down around Claxton. There's something
going on.
Something going on, and they're the big expensive signs too. So
yeah.
You do miss those 4x4s and
those
4x8s
40
when they
bucks.
go. Yeah.
4x8s are another thing. Right. They're even more. I think this year they're running $55 and $35 on 4x4s. It adds up after a while.
Yeah.
It's a little bit too expensive. There's some local candidates that aren't spending a lot of money, getting a little traction. That's always what makes it. It's always the Tip O'Neill thing about all politics is local. And I just like to see regular folks get involved and do stuff. And you want to cheer for those folks. You just want to get out and be excited for them, no matter what their politics is. I mean, we've got great commissioners in Oak Ridge. We have for a lot of years. I feel good about it. I don't know much about the 6. Steve, I know well, and Catherine, I know, but I don't know much about issues and what they face, because that's the furthest you go from courthouse.
Right.
In a city area, like that. So I really don't. New blood in Clinton. We got 2 going off in Clinton, 2 going off in the 7th. There's 4 of your 6, right?
Right.
And like I said, where else? We got 1 going on.
We got Denver Waddell's leaving District 3.
I like Denver a lot. Good guy.
Yeah. So.
Et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, but signage, if you don't follow it, folks, some signs have been picked up and missing in some of the areas, and there's been some allegations. And everybody's in as far as I'm concerned until proven guilty. But it's been social media's changed the world. It's been a box as we've been. Please, it's hard work to put signs up.
It is.
And it's hard work, and it's expensive, and just respect each other's property. That's one thing that's easy to do, whatever you get. People respect that, and people don't like it when you don't do it, and especially candidates and stuff. What do you see in the next few years for the county? What's the best things and the most challenging things?
I think, I don't think the growth around my district is going to slow down anytime soon. I think we've got to stay on top of the infrastructure. If we can use some of this stimulus money to get matching money, more extend those dollars further with grants for
tips, grants and stuff.
The sewer, the broadband, the roads, we're going to work with the city of Clinton on getting some traffic lights there for Hunter's Trail, that big intersection there by the high school, and Tanner Lane there at the Walmart. Bringing that in is going to entice some of the businesses that are still kind of holding back. When they see us doing that, then they're going to be ready to come in. We've still got about a 14-acre parcel back behind the Get and Go area that a big box store could go in that, and that'll bring a restaurant probably.
How are the restaurants doing, like the Harrisons and the Go Brother? Is that interstate? Is it still solid?
It's busy. They're doing well. That's another thing besides the signs or the animal shelter. If you really want to start a debate on Facebook, say what kind of restaurant do you want by the interstate, and people go crazy. So that's why I don't know if you've seen Stephanie Wells with the Tourism Council is proposing she would like to go in with ACETA and the chamber on.
That's pretty controversial. I read
it is controversial. Yeah. I support it because we've got this parcel where they're located there by the interstate that's off the tax rolls right now that would be prime for development. We could get one of those restaurants that everybody wants. So I'm kind of in favor if she wants, and her department is.
You talking about where her building is?
Yes, yeah. She would like to surplus that. And buy into basically like a condo situation with the chamber.
Where would it go?
It's going to be kind of right outside of the downtown Clinton area, near Main Street. They've got an option on some property there, so they're still in the very early stages of they don't even have complete architectural drawings. They're trying to find out what they could get, what.
Have you heard anything on this Daugherty building debate downtown Clinton?
I've seen some of that kind of going up. I don't get to many Clinton City Council meetings, so I know there's been some controversy there with kind of wanting to maintain it as the historical district. That's kind of the double-edged sword too. On one hand, you want that you got to get the housing, you got to get the
Of course, the
population
flip of that
there
is
to support
affordable
it.
housing creates customers. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
it's
you bring
yeah.
people in.
So there's kind of a tightrope to walk.
Yeah,
with that.
I've heard some debate on that within the city and that kind of stuff. We always argue that Oak Ridge provides more than half of the revenue commercially and everything else, and we don't get much out of it, you know. So, and I'm 100% behind your $200,000 to fix the sewer problem and do some capital improvements in Norris. I think it's a very wise investment. So my wife or somebody else comes up and says, we want to dig a hole around the trench or a mod around the Children's Museum or whatever, et cetera, et cetera. Our argument would be, when I say our, I mean my argument would be that there are projects within the city limits of Oak Ridge and Norris is in city limits too, that we need to be willing to invest in too.
Yeah, and that's,
tax dollars got to be spread out. You know?
The city residents pay county taxes too, and that's what we've got to be fair. And I think that with the stimulus money or anything, we've kind of got to work out that formula of
operational money. I get it.
Right.
It's not relevant for the cities, but I think when you get a stimulus and you go build an animal shelter, and then you want to build, we're going to finish on the jail complex, and we're going to do this other stuff. City needs to get some things. Nonprofits, I'm thinking of mainly. What about the old system? If every commissioner gets so much funding, we got a lot of money now. Why can't every commissioner? I think in the old days it was 1,200 because I remember Mike Cox and Jerry Cruz. Give them to anybody you want in your district.
There's the Waste Connections grant, I think, that we get where you can spend so much on it's $750 a year, I think, so much for educational opportunities for your elementary and middle schools, stuff
in your district.
High school, in your district.
But you can create whatever you want.
Yeah, and sometimes we pull together. We've done this before, where if one class somewhere is taking a big expensive trip, we'll all chip in $100 to that.
But my point is, nobody knows better what West Oak Ridge needs than Catherine Denenberg and Steve Meade. Nobody knows better about Norris and Andersonville than you, and it goes on, and McCamey and White and the Dutch Valley. Why not give every commissioner $1,500 a year? What are we talking about? $12,000 out of a fund of $11 million. And why can't we just give that money so they can invest in some of those local schools? I just seems like a worthy project to me.
Yeah. No, I could get behind that.
I knew you would. But, I mean, there's other things like that, et cetera, et cetera. What do you see you doing different in the next 4 years?
You know, I have done some town halls. That was a thing that I kind of ran on. I wanted to do. COVID interrupted that a little bit. I've picked it back up. I'd like to continue with the engagement. One of the things I see that worries me, 47,000 registered voters and only 6,000 show up to vote.
It's pretty consistent everywhere.
It is. I feel like there's got to be some way to kind of.
And we're not sure yet. We're measuring it and polling it. We're not sure if the election last year, 2 years ago, had some impact on voters' confidence in the system.
If they just gave up on,
Then voter fatigue and all that kind of stuff. We're not sure yet. And you got to have good races, and you got to have things to vote for. And we really, we had some judges race up. I predicted in the beginning 5,800, 6,200, and that was pretty close. And I think that's the question. How many do we get in August? I mean, how many get? 9,000? 10,000 in Republican? Well, let's give Jim Dotson some credit. Jim's going to drive some Democratic votes. I'm a Republican, but Dotson's a good candidate. If you look at all the Democratic candidates around, he's probably one of the most viable candidates in East Tennessee. I mean, I'm talking about non-incumbent, non-urban areas where the percentage of voters are 67% Republican with his narrow district. John Reagan's a good state rep. It should be a good combination. So let me drive some votes. I'm not trying to make judgment on anybody. I'm saying that may drive some votes in these areas. So we may see August pick up a little bit on the Democratic side. We may see 4,000 or 5,000 Democratic votes or 3,500. Or you only got 5 more minutes. So I think we got a chance. But hey, listen, learn from District 3.
Right.
Y'all drove some votes.
Right.
I mean, when one commission district, there's 8, so on paper it should be 12% of the vote. When it's 26% of the vote, they're doing something right. And give a lot of credit, obviously, to Victoria Bowen, but she isn't the only reason. I mean, there's a lot of activity going on up there, and I mean, you had Shelley, you had Lindsay, you have other stuff going on. Ironically, all the money's in the school systems, and not a single contested race. Isn't that weird?
Right. Yeah.
Nobody contested any incumbents. We can say they're all doing a good job. But that's where your cities drop off because they're not involved in education.
Right.
They're going with their own city schools and city stuff of that nature. But I was a little surprised.
Yeah, and we'll have I think they are staggered. I think half the school board will run in 2 years.
That is correct.
With the property assessor race. And
but not within that district like you were speaking about earlier.
It's just
they
one
run
per
4 districts
right.
and they run 4 more. Like District 7's up this time, and Don Bell went to school with me. He's a friend of mine. He's unopposed, and I don't know really who's in the western part. So we don't see. That's how little I keep up with it. Outside of my district, I couldn't name a single. Glenda Langenberg, I know her. I mean, she was out there in Emory Valley, but you know your commissioners, but the school board, man. That's a pretty hefty responsibility to manage that kind of budget. And how many school board members?
8.
Yeah.
Yep.
Managing $100 million.
Well over half.
I mean, it's a big deal. But they do a good job. Dale Cantrell, I think, does a great job.
Yeah.
Don does a good job. And Joe out in Claxton does a great job. I think there's a lot of very skilled people that really take an interest. And most of them have some kind of interest in academics or education.
Right.
You think you'll have a career change? You're seen as a leader. I mean, I'm pretty fair. I do commissions all over the state. I think you're one of the most, well, let me give the right adjective. You're one of the most respected, not for a career, but for your involvement and your look. I think there's great possibilities there. And I know you well enough to know you'd be interested.
I'd be open to it. I want to try to get through August 4th first to see how this.
And I'm talking about career too. I'm not just talking about politics.
Like long term, yeah. You know,
you're young, 38.
A couple months ago, when it was turned cold and the sleet was kind of blowing in when I was delivering mail, I was thinking,
snow, sleet, or rain.
Yeah, I was thinking, you know what, I might want to. Something with a little more climate.
But you can do that at 38 when you're in good shape. Right. I mean, there's mailmen out there working.
That's
in
true.
my numbers that are in their 60s.
It's a good job, though. Some of them.
Yeah, they get up 25 years, and they don't give it up. They want to keep at it for a while. I got buddies in Nashville making, 6 figures a long time ago. So it's hard work. It's very hard work. Is everybody required to walk?
No. I'm a rural route, so I've actually got.
Well, they walk in Middle Oak Ridge. They walk.
They do.
They park their vehicle, walk 12 houses, move it up, walk 12. So they're walking a lot.
Yeah.
So you do the same thing though. You park and walk, right?
I do a little walking, but most of it's just driving around out long driveways and out in the country. So.
Getting good. How many homes do you deliver in a day? Roughly.
About 630.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Break that down into minutes. How that gives you what?
It's a couple. I forget what it is. The formula is per box, but it's about a 40-mile route.
That's one every minute and a half. 1 minute every minute or so, right?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Political heroes, people that motivated you? It's okay to say Dems or ours. It doesn't matter.
I'm kind of a history buff, so I go way back. But
let's do it.
The founding fathers, John Adams. I think David McCullough gave him some well-deserved credit late, but he's in between George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, so he kind of gets overshadowed a little bit. But he's the guy that suggested Jefferson to write the Declaration of Independence. He's the guy that nominated Washington.
And for a Federalist to do that to a Republican statesman, that's pretty good.
And they're the guys that started the partisan politics. Mm-hmm. They invented it for us.
Well, they needed it. They didn't want it to be like King George.
Right.
That's where they were. But really, the talent was Madison, wasn't it?
Yeah. Those guys, and for them to all have, it does make you believe that there's something special about this country and this place for all those guys to just be there together at the same time.
And to have that vision, being landowners and property owners and all that, pretty amazing, really, to do everything they did. Well, your career's often going, you're doing a great job for Anderson County. I mean, I don't say it to many people, but you're doing a great job. And I think you're more macro. I think you look like a leader for all of us, not just your district. And everybody I talk to, I hear nothing but positive things.
Oh, that's...
And,
good to hear.
I'm in the rocking chair. I don't get it all, but, I mean, that's where it is. Well, we thank you for watching Between the Lines every Thursday night at 7.
Since the moment you were born, I've made 1,000 wishes. Wishes for your future in a world that's changing fast. Because no matter what you do in this life, what matters to me is that you keep doing.
The life of every child is precious. If you care for a child or teenager with a disability and have limited income and resources, they may qualify for monthly cash payments through the Supplemental Security Income Program, or SSI. Call Social Security at 1-800-772-1213 or visit ssa.gov/SSI Kids to learn more. That's ssa.gov/SSI Kids. Message produced by Social Security at U.S. taxpayer expense.
This is my husband, Alex Hussey. Alex is about 2 weeks away from coming home.
I was point man in foot patrol, and I stopped on the bomb. Lost my legs and my left hand in an explosion.
And he suffered a severe traumatic brain injury.
As America's veterans face challenges, DAV is there.
There are so many mountains to climb, and we do it together.
With the right support, more veterans can reach victories, great and small.
Come on, Alex, take on this mountain. That's what this is all about.
DAV provides a lifetime of support to veterans of every generation, helping more than 1 million veterans each year.
Alex has conquered this mountain. That's something he won't forget.
With the right support, there are no limits.
Look at that smile! You did it!
But there's more to be done and more victories to be won.